welcome to Sailing Along. I know, long time no see. There has been a lot of things on my plate which has been keeping me occupied. In fact, not on just my plate, on multiple plates on my table, that I could not get enough time to create content for this channel. But I will definitely try to be more regular in creating content, or if not, then at least responding to your queries out there, whoever reaches out to me over YouTube or even over LinkedIn. So, my whole YouTube channel is about my MBA journey, TISS and all of those ideas. There are a lot of interview experiences that I have recorded and uploaded, but there is this one interview experience which is missing, and which is the most important one, is how I got into TISS, the interview of TISS, which helped me secure a seat here. So today's video is gonna be that, and this is the video that I've received the most requests upon, so I hope that it helps. And most probably the interviews would be scheduled in the month of April, so I feel this is the right time for this video to come out. My interview personally was on 17th of April. Now, just one clarification before we dig into it. I'm just going to share about what questions were asked to me, so you can gauge that what could you expect and what you cannot. I would not say my interview was one of the best interview. No, I've already mentioned that I am kind of the last person to get into TISS, the batch of 2027. So definitely do not rely upon this completely. Just take this video as a guideline. Okay, this was what Yashvi's experience was, and it could be similar, not so similar for me as well. So it depends a lot upon your background and everything. So you will get to know when I will run you through the interview, how did it look like and what it was. So it was an online interview. It was scheduled on 17th of April 2025. I guess it was around 11 o'clock or something. And this was my first interview. I'm so sorry. This was my first interview in which there were 3 professors out there. So all of my online or offline interviews, I have had always 2 panelists, but in this interview there were 3 panelists. So the first panelist, now that I know who he was because I study with him, he was the Dean of the School of Management and Labor Studies. So he was our first panelist, and most of the interview he was the one who started the interview, and most of the questions were covered by him, followed by the other 2 panelists. And my total duration of interview was around 17 to 20 minutes. I will walk you through the questions that I got. So the dean and the first panelist, he himself started with it, and he asked me that, okay, so were you working as a school teacher? And I said yes. So it's like, tell me about your interest in teaching, and now why are you moving away? Then I had an answer drafted for it to tell them, okay, what did I picked up there and how I am willing to pivot it to another direction like human resource management. Then from here, now everything starts technical, at least for him. So he started with, okay, what do you mean by MNC? Very simple. I said multinational company, and he was like, okay, name some. While naming some, I named Meta as well and some others as well. Then his consecutive question was, what issue is Meta facing at this moment? And I elaborated a little upon that. Then in that elaboration, I mentioned that Meta bought Facebook and Instagram to kill its competition, which is not accepted very well. So his follow-up question was, what is wrong in killing your competition? Like, what do you think about it? So whatever was my point of view on it at that point of time, I elaborated that. Then he asked me, have you heard about Procter and Gamble? And then he asked me, okay, what issues is Tesla facing at this moment? And then my last 7th question was MNC versus Indian companies. There is a lot of debate going upon multinational companies and Indian companies. So what would you favor and what would you not? So these were the series of 7 questions that he asked me, starting by, okay, what interests me into teaching? Why am I moving away? What is MNC? What issue is Meta facing? What's wrong with killing your own competition? Have you heard about Procter and Gamble and what do you know about them? What issue is Tesla facing, and MNC versus Indian companies, and what is my take upon it? So these were the questions that he asked me particularly, and which was a lot more technical oriented, business side oriented is what I felt. Then he was like, okay, he's done with it, and we moved towards the second panelist. And she asked me particularly 3 questions, and this were in relation with my previous work experience as a kindergarten teacher. So her first question was, what will you bring from your teaching profession into HR? So what I have picked up from there and how am I planning to pivot it here, it was kind of that answer. And in my answers and in my speaking in general, I am very elaborative. So I was speaking with examples, and I was speaking with multiple viewpoints here and there, and I thought it was great, but I'll come to that. Our second question was, what is the difference state 2 to 3 differences between adult learning principles and children learning philosophies. So I was more emphasizing upon the idea that whatever the way children learn, I will try to take those ideas and implement it into HR and all of those ideas. So she particularly asked, what are the differentiation, 2 to 3 differentiation. Now I was not very prepared for this answer, because what I have thought always was similarities between the two to be able to justify my position. Then comes to her last question. Her last question was, what is the social media influence in growing children? Like, what is your view on that? And as usual, I was being very descriptive in my answers with examples and these and that and all of it. She said, okay, limit your description, we all know what you're talking about. Answer in bullet points, like, okay, positive influence is 3 bullet points, negative influence is 3 bullet points. And I said, I'm so sorry, I'll keep that in mind. And then I restructured my answer accordingly. So not necessary always that descriptive longer answers work, sometimes bullet points work better. So it is very much dependent upon what is your strength, it depends upon what is the professor or the panelist looking at. So you can never really gauge this, you can just prepare for all kind of answers, and whatever is your feel at this moment you can just deliver. So these were the set of 3 questions from her side, and then she was like, yes, she's done in her part. And then lastly, the third professor took over. He has asked me just 2 questions. The first question was, like, he saw that my background had psychology. So in my bachelor's, my second subject was psychology. So he was like, can you name some most important learning theories? So I was not very fluent with the names of it, like I might fuck up with some of the pronunciations, but I was able to explain that I know them in detail, and I was able to pick up 1 or 2 theories like social learning theory of Vygotsky and explain it in a little detail and those ideas. And then the second question was, what kind of HR issues are there in kindergarten? So what I mentioned was not just kindergarten, because where I was working was actually a school, and I elaborated on the HR issues that I felt was there around in the school itself. So that was pretty much it. You could literally see the pivot of the interview from being very much company oriented to coming to the personal. I personally have faced interview which is more reverse, where they first ask you questions about yourself, your work and everything, and then they move towards the business side of it. But this was a different kind of experience altogether. Again, to specify, this is not a guideline of the best interview, no. This is just me candidly sharing this was what my interview questions were about, so that you could gauge and understand. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please drop in the comment section. I will be very happy to answer them. If you want to know about, okay, how did I answer those, like if your background matches with my background, then that could also be helpful. Do let me know in whichever ways I would be able to help you. Definitely be there for you. And that was it for this video. Let's keep it concise so you can better focus on your interview prep with all the other things and current affairs and so many things around. All the best for your interviews. Thank you so much. I hope you love the sailing along.